All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to the Advisory Committee meeting for the 2023 OLCC Alcohol Housekeeping and Technical Updates Rule Package. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this morning. My name is Nicole Blase and I'm the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC. I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started this morning. Today's meeting is being recorded. Please ensure that your phone or computer are muted unless you are speaking today. Only invited committee members will be a part of today's conversation. Members were selected due to their level of interest or position within the community. With that in mind, we ask that each of you serve as a goodwill ambassador to the discussion so that you may represent your constituency professionally. Please be courteous to other committee members so that we don't have multiple participants speaking at once. You may use the raise hand function in Teams, or if you are calling in, please interject when appropriate and we will call on you in order. Non-committee members will be able to tender comments during the public hearing and during the comment period. Committee members, please state your first and last name when you make a comment or ask a question. Okay, let's get started. Today is Wednesday, October 11th at approximately 10 a.m. Many of you are familiar with the rulemaking process, but for those of you who have not yet had the opportunity, or for those listening in, I will begin by saying a few words about rulemaking and the purpose of advisory committee meetings. The purpose of an advisory committee is to increase the public's involvement in the drafting and development of administrative rules. The Oregon Legislature, through its enactment of the Administrative Procedures Act, stresses the critical importance of the public's participation in policy development. Advisory committees are an excellent way to solicit input from internal and external stakeholders who are likely to be impacted by the development or amendment of agency policy and rule. Consequently, advisory committee invitees may include licensees, permittees, industry representatives, OLCC staff, members of law enforcement, local government, the public, local community organizations, small businesses, and other interested stakeholders. The purpose of having all of the members on this committee today is to hear from the different parts of the industry and the public health and safety partners. The Commission strives to hear from all interested parties. Our role today will be to explain the background and context of these rules and the changes that are being proposed in this rule package. We will provide facilitation to ensure that all committee members can provide input today. Under Oregon's public meeting law, this meeting is open to the public and members of the public are free to observe our discussion, but may not offer comments. The agency will digitally record this advisory committee meeting and will produce and circulate a record of our discussion. However, because this meeting is intended to promote the open exchange of ideas, we will maintain an informal atmosphere and meeting minutes will record only the topics discussed and the main points made. Approximately 1 week after our meeting, we will post and distribute the meeting's audio. We will now move on to introductions. I will be calling on the RAC members to introduce yourself. When introducing yourself, please state your name and the organization you are representing. Again, my name is Nicole Blase and I'm the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC. Nicole Mitchell, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I am a marijuana licensing technician and currently working in an out-of-class position as an alcohol policy analyst.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. Danica Foster, and then any other OLCC staff that might be on the call.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Danica Foster, Director of Licensing. I oversee both alcohol and cannabis licensing for the state.
Thanks, Danica. Meredith?
Hi, good morning. Meredith King. I am alcohol licensing technician.
Randy?
Good morning, Randy Hancock. I am the Compliance Specialist 3 for alcohol.
Thanks, Randy. Melanie?
Good morning, I'm Melanie Musial. I'm the Director of the Administrative Hearings Division for OLCC.
Thank you, Melanie. Tyler?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Glaze. I am an alcohol policy analyst with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission.
Thanks, Tyler. Christopher?
Good morning. I am Christopher Vossen. I am the Liquor Licensing Assistant Manager.
Thank you, Christopher. Susan.
Good morning. I'm Susan Rudberg, and I am the liquor licensing technician.
Thanks, Susan. Heidi.
Heidi Anderson. I'm the liquor licensing manager for OLCC.
Thanks, Heidi. Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Sander, Program Coordinator for the Alcohol and Marijuana Education Program at the OLCC.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other OLCC staff on the call that I missed?
This is Matthew Bensicle, Public Information Officer overseeing alcohol and bottle bill.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, I will go ahead and introduce the RAC members. Again, please just state your name and the organization that you're representing today. Danelle Romaine.
Hi there, Danelle Romaine, Executive Director of the Oregon Beer and Wine Distributors Association.
Thank you, Danelle. Mike Fries.
Good morning, Mike Fries, and I'm an attorney for the Oregon Beverage and Oregon Beer and Wine Distributors Association.
Thank you, Mike. Greg Astley. Okay, Bill Perry.
Yes, Bill Perry with the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association.
Thank you, Bill. Kelly Luzania.
Hi, good morning. I'm an attorney at Davis Wright Tremaine, and I'm here today on behalf of the Oregon Wine Growers Association.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Christina LaRue. Okay, Amanda Dalton. Tony Morse. Carol Unruh.
Yes, I'm Carol Unruh with Oregon Beverage Services.
Thanks, Carol. Joe Shapiro.
Yes, I'm Joel Shapiro. I'm an attorney with the Trafficking Law Center.
Thank you, Joel. And Heather Irwin. Okay, that is the list that I have. We're going to go ahead and get started. As I mentioned in the email that I sent out with the meeting materials, we are going to try and do our best to get through all of the proposed language first and try to save questions, comments, concerns, and our discussion towards the end of the meeting. But again, please raise your hand or put a note in the chat if you have any questions while we are reviewing the language. So I am going to pass the baton over to Nicole Mitchell to get us started on the proposed draft language that we have today.
Thank you. So the first rule that we have is OAR 845-0050308, covering the valid basis for adverse local government recommendations and for commission use and information received from the public. The only change there is just a housekeeping change, which is for renumbering the statute ORS 471313. So there are no substantive changes there. The second rule is OAR 845-0050311, true name on application, interest in business. Same thing, just technical housekeeping renumbering of the statute. The next rule, OAR 845-0050310, is sorry. Can you scroll down a little bit on the rules here to get to the changes?
Christopher, are you running the sharing the screen?
So this rule is just another housekeeping update, change renumbering of the statute. The next rule, 84500503112, is just another technical cleanup, clarifying language that an applicant may request review of an inactivated application, but without hearing rights attached to it. And you can see that language if you scroll down a little bit more. There we go. The next rule we can move on to 845005030, license refusal reasons that cannot be overcome, is just also a renumbering of the statute with no substantive changes. And scrolling down a little bit, I believe that is all that isn't there. So the next rule, 84500500417, is a technical cleanup. It's a typo. It's listing the correct statute. And adding language for which the incorporating the direct shipper language in here, discussing the application process. It also is adding the language about inactivation of a application without attaching hearing rights to it as well. Moving on to the next rule. OAR 84500500425 is adding the language from the malt beverage lawsuit and House Bill 2013, basically changing the wine self-distribution permit language to the direct to retail permit language. It's also adding in language about being a resident of another state here. Can scroll down a little bit, please. Just discussing the application process. And again, removing the language for the wine self-distribution permit. The next rule, OAR, is just being repealed. OAR 84500500426 gets rid of all of the retailer endorsements for the wine self-distribution permits. OAR 84500603335 is amending language addressing acceptable forms of identification. If you can scroll down to the next rule. I believe another OLCC member is going to be covering the prohibited conduct rule.
Yes, I can take Melanie Musial. I can take that over. So for prohibited conduct, there is some renumbering in general in this section, but of what the definitions are. And if you can scroll down a little. The change we're seeing here is for in changing from just not allowing drinking on duty to not allowing consuming any intoxicating substance on duty. That is in line with the marijuana rules. If you scroll down a little bit there, you'll see that we did allow for make an allowance for a licensee permittee to use an intoxicating substance on duty if it is prescribed, but otherwise it would not be allowed. And if you can go down, again, just some more renumbering here. Until we get to, keep on going. 14, that is the self-service rule is just being, there's some more clarification written into the rule about what is and is not allowed under self-service, allowing for pitchers to be brought out to tables, things of that nature, but still not allowing people, to go behind the bar and to serve themselves. And if you can go down, keep going. I think that's all of the changes in that section.
Nicole Mitchell, OLCC. The next rule we have is OAR 845-006-0350, covering service permittee required reporting and trafficking of unlawful employment of minors. And this rule is really implementing Senate Bill 1052, which the bill modifies crimes related to involuntary servitude and human trafficking. So just adding language that is consistent with that. Moving on to the next rule. OAR 845-006-0400. Again, this is just amending the wine self-distribution rule and changing it to the direct to retailer permit. Taking out that language and adding in language just for the requirements to sell at wholesale and transport directly to certain licensees, full on premises, limited premises, off premises, and temporary sales licensees, brewery, public house. So this covers wine, cider, and malt beverages. But it specifically talks about this notice. The rule does not cover brands of malt beverages that are covered under a wholesale distribution agreement. There's also a limitation on the amount of malt beverages that can be shipped at a combined total of 7,500 barrels of malt beverages. So this is implementing House Bill 2013, the whole malt beverage lawsuit. There's language including the privilege tax requirements. And that these permittees are consenting to the jurisdiction of the commission. and including language about Commission's ability to audit the records. Moving on to the next rule. OAR 845-006-0401 is the requirements for Oregon retailers to receive malt beverages, wine, or cider from the holder of a direct-to-retailer permit. Again, changing the wine self-distribution language to direct-to-retailer. It's removing the endorsement requirement. And states that ORS 474 doesn't apply to retail licensees when they receive malt beverages, wine, or cider directly from a direct-to-retail permit holder. The next rule, 845-009-0010, is the service permit requirements. This change is primarily clarifying circumstances under which the Commission may waive the service permit requirement. We can scroll down a bit more, please. To the next rule. So this is 845-009-0140 covering age verification equipment. And just a housekeeping update to, if you scroll down, just real small changes, just updating the civil penalty amount that had already been changed. This, housekeeping here. And then the last rule we have, OAR 845-013-0020, covering money, credits, discounts under ORS 471-398 sub 2 and 471-400 sub 3A. This really is focused on adding language when a retail licensee may return malt beverages, wine, and adding cider to a manufacturer or wholesaler. So they're, if you scroll up a little bit, adding in the specific license types of who it applies to, and then scrolling down a little bit further, clarifying specific with language the circumstances under which this would be allowed. And scroll down just a little bit more, please. There we go. And sub 5 is changing the language to say that price lists, referencing the rule there, just to be more direct. And that is all we have. Nicole Blase, were you wanting to open this up to questions now, or I guess I'll pass the baton over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole and Melanie, and thank you to Christopher for sharing your screen while we reviewed the language. We will go ahead and open up to questions, comments, and discussion. If we could start with folks maybe using the raise hand function in Teams, and that way I can go through in order that way. And then after that, if anyone is on the phone, we can take your questions or concern and discussion. Is there anybody who would like to start with any feedback? Danelle, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could go through the last one there. And I know that's meant for like temporary special events for returns. And I talked to some staff about this several months ago, but I'm wondering just if somebody from the OLCC can interpret that language for when that would apply, the optional returns, just so I'm really clear on what that says.
Chris, can you please pull up that last rule? It's the last page. And Danelle, did you have a specific subsection you wanted to look at?
Well, so I'm just rereading it. I just want to make sure that this is right here. So basically, it makes sense, you know, the business closes, you can return the beverages. There's a natural disaster, you can return the beverages or get credit or whatever it is. But then when you go to C, can you just go from there and explain sort of what types of events that would apply to, who would be putting on the events, and when that exception to the general prohibition on financial assistance would apply, where the temporary licensee could ask for a return of the product or get credit for it.
Meredith or Chris, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I think you two might have a better sense of what types of events this would apply to. None are coming to mind for me personally right now. And Danelle, I guess, are there any types? Are you concerned about any particular types?
Well, I just, when this was eventually, yeah, no, well, when this was proposed to us, it was proposed as very narrow, a very narrow exception. And I just want to make sure it reads that way. I think it does, but I'm trying to figure out who this actually is. So basically, an event with a temporary sales license, but not essentially regular licensees. So, so basically, if you start at C, an event with a temporary sales license, except for essentially people, regular retail licensees, which makes sense. So you don't want regular licensees to have returns. And then you get into, so that's just temporary, like somebody new who's not a current licensee who has a temporary event, is the way I'm reading that, which is fine. And then D is when a retailer is using a TUAL, and they're also a nonprofit, a public entity, a nonprofit or public entity. Is that the limitation there? Okay.
I mean, that's how I understand it to be, that yes, that it's going to be limiting in both of those settings.
Yes.
So
and
yeah, first being, as you said, that
could be credit. Yeah. That you could get a credit applied to your next purchase, essentially, if and would you have to apply to the OLCC for that? Do you have to
like for a return of stock type letter?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, is that in there still or not?
I don't know if we took that language out. Trying to look and see if we did.
I believe we had left it in, but
well, under big A, subsection big A, we took out subsection B, get the commission's prior written approval if the credit is more than one case. So we removed that section.
Okay, I think the language looks fine. I just wanted to make sure it was very narrow. It looks like it is, so thank you.
Yeah, and we can also talk more offline to Danelle if you'd like at some point in the future.
Yeah, and the way this was pitched to us is this really is very narrow for some like festival type situations where somebody isn't a normal retailer having an event. And it
Mhm.
looks like it's written that way. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think we're on the same
Festivals where
page.
festivals where they like over purchase product, basically.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, anything to review? Going once? Anybody? Okay, well, feel free to raise your hand. I am going to, we can move on to the fiscal impact statement and public health and safety questionnaire that the RAC members received with their meeting materials. We can collect general feedback from this group on the fiscal impacts of this package, but for those wishing to provide additional feedback, please complete the statement and return it to us no later than Friday, October 20th by emailing it to olcc.rulemaking@oregon.gov. At this time, is there any feedback on the possible fiscal impacts of these changes that committee members would like to discuss? All right, if there's any additional information you would like to contribute, please complete the form that we circulated and return it to us no later than October 20th. And I will put that rulemaking email in the chat. Is there anything else? Any other comments, questions, concerns, discussion that any of the RAC members would like to contribute today? All right, are there any comments from the OLCC staff? Anything that would like to be reiterated before we conclude this very short meeting today?
This is Danica Foster. I just want to thank everybody for your participation. That's what helps make these rules work for the agency and the industry, so I appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Danica. And on behalf of the OLCC, we want to thank all of our RAC members and panelists today for providing their expertise on these issues. In the coming weeks, we will be posting the notice of proposed rulemaking with the Secretary of State, and the public hearing and public comment period will be announced through that notice. You're welcome to contact me or any of the OLCC staff if you have any questions about that. And that will allow anyone to provide further testimony or written comments if there was anything that you don't feel was covered today. And we will have this audio and the notice of proposed rulemaking up on our website in the coming weeks. So again, we want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to working with you in the future weeks with this rule package. So thank you so much, and everybody have a great rest of your morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.